So I've been working my tractor, trying to pull out all this Scotch broom, horrible invasive weed that permeates. Oh, it's got to be about a third of the plant life we have here. I mean, not including grass. But I was doing a lot of thinking, and you know, I get it. I get that people don't like Trump. That they're happy that he's out of office, that there's somebody else there. And you know what? I believe in our democratic system, and that's perfectly fine. But there's something that has been said that I think needs some clarity. We have the tendency to vilify those that we oppose, that we want to get others to believe that these are the worst human beings on the planet, especially when it comes to politics. Now, I'm not a fan of Biden, but I recognize that he is now the president of the United States, and I respect that. And more of that comes from a respect of the office and a respect of our system than it is for, thinking that, that he's an outstanding guy. And, he's probably an all right guy. He seems like a nice grandpa. But for the most part, when people talked about Trump, their go-to was to compare him to Hitler. Now, I hate being in the place where I feel like I have to defend Trump because, it's not a good it's not a good thing to defend, I guess. But let's be careful with our comparisons. Okay, I want us to remind us of a few things. Schwarzenegger came out and began talking about the night of broken glass and talking about the Capitol. Okay, now first off, let's note that if this event, this march on the Capitol, goes down as a insurrection in the history books, it is probably going to be the most civil and peaceful insurrection in American history. I mean, just look at Shays' Rebellion, or the riots earlier in the year, the riots of the 60s, the Civil War. I mean, the fact that a whole part of the nation said, "This is not my president." That's old school right there. And seceded from the Union and set up their own government in place of, the Union. So, and the amount of trouble and conflict that came through all of that. We're talking something very minuscule at this point. But Trump is not Hitler, not even close. Anybody that is a student of history, anybody that has had 2 cents on history knows that this is a terrible comparison. But there's some things that we need to understand about Hitler. It is a name, Adolf Hitler. I mean, people don't name their kids Adolf anymore, let alone Hitler, because of the attachment to the name now. But what made Hitler a terrible leader, a horrible human being, wasn't that he was a nationalist. And, it's been shoved down my throat that nationalism's a terrible thing. And it's not. It's not. It's people can love their country. People do love their country. People live in this country and still love their home country. And so, we can't just say that, nationalism was the bad part. We say that, Trump said, "Make America great again." And Hitler said, "Make Germany great again." Now, let's recognize that Germany, at the beginning of World War II, needed to become great again because they were devastated after World War I. And, to the point where the inflation was so bad, people were being paid multiple times per day, running to the bank to cash in their checks, carrying them home in wheelbarrows, just so they can try and run their kid down the street to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread before the prices went up again. We left Europe devastated, and we left it all to Germany to fix it. So, now, he wasn't the only one that wanted to make his country great again. Nationalism was a part of every country's ideology during World War II. That's how people were able to build massive armies to people that were, in America, that were trying to get into the military before they were even of age. There was a sense of pride for your nation. Roosevelt was a nationalist. Churchill was a nationalist. So wanting to make your nation great isn't the worst part. What was the worst part about Hitler was the fact that he systematically killed millions of his own countrymen, that he vilified them, and that he encouraged people to go out and burn down businesses and break their windows and destroy their homes. Now, that wasn't a march on the German capital. That was a march in the neighborhoods and businesses of downtowns where people rioted and destroyed businesses. Now, there's only one part in 2020 that actually is reflective of the Night of Broken Glass, and it was not the March on the Capitol. Now, mind you, the March on the Capitol didn't need to happen. It was completely useless. I find it really strange that most of the footage we see is people walking within the velvet ropes through the Capitol, carrying their flags, and then coming out into the major portions of the offices of the Capitol building, taking selfies with statues. There was no destruction of statues, no destruction of monument images, pictures, paintings, and the like. They busted a few doors and windows. So let's not make this bigger than it actually is. Now, so Trump wanting to make America great again was not him being just like Hitler. The March on Washington, the March on the Capitol building was not the Night of Broken Glass. If we're going to be honest, we have to be real students of the past in order to truly understand the present. And you see, it's easy to say, oh, well, these patterns are similar. These things are alike, and therefore, that person's terrible because they use the same rhetoric or language or whatever. But, I mean, come on, we are not systematically executing anybody in the country. And people say, oh, deportation. People aren't really dying from deportation in mass numbers. We're at a different time. We're in a different country. It's a different world. And let's face it, more people want to believe the spin than they actually want to do their homework to actually look at things for what they really are. You know what? Trump's out of office. I'm all right with it. I voted for him in 2016, and I didn't vote for anybody this last time around. I hope that politicians forward continue to be unsuccessful in doing the things that they're set out to do, that they've campaigned on doing. I mean, like immigration, where they've talked about putting up a wall since 1916. And you know what? Somebody finally did it. But, we still got to run a campaign on immigration because otherwise we can't get votes. So, nonetheless, let us be a little bit more civil in the way we talk about things. Let us not compare our figures to the worst people we can find in history. Let's be a little more sensible, a little more civil, a little more down to earth. Anyways, I gotta get back to work. Peace out. Sola Deo Gloria.